Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Finance and Personnel Committee. It's Tuesday, the 17th of October. We'll start with item 375. Does anybody have any declarations of any disclosable pecuniary interests, please? None. Thank you very much. We have two apologies for absence, I believe, Karen.
Councillors McDonald and Johnson.
Thank you. And everybody else is here, which is great. Thank you. 377, the minutes from our last meeting that was on the 19th of September have been approved by full council. Are you content they are a true and accurate record? Agreed. Thank you very much. We should sign those. 378, review of the Finance and Personnel Committee terms of reference. You'll notice on a number of committees already, and I think there's probably one or two still to go, the terms of reference at each committee are being refreshed. This is our turn this evening to update ours. It's the first time we've done this since the committee has merged. So essentially it's the Finance and Personnel terms of reference joining together, and I think Alan's done quite a bit of work going through them. Anything you want to add, Alan, to what's there?
I think the only thing that I did is I added information technology seems to fall out of all the committees, and all I've done is brought it into the ambit of the personnel committee. So there is some committee oversight over that, and probably the most significant change.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on the terms of reference? So the default quorum with all committees at the moment is 3 members. We're 8 official members. Are you happy with it being 3? Mm-hmm. Although I'd hope not to have just 3 of us, but that's the quorum. Dun, 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 dun. And there was a bit in here I was going to ask about appraisals, and it referenced the change we had at full council. Just set and review the objectives of the town clerk. Council has delegated this to the chair of the committee. Do we have a standalone appraisal policy of Thetford Town Council? Or is it lumped in with the Green Book?
It's lumped in the staff handbook.
Okay, but that's a sort of national template rather than our own template.
I'm not sure we actually do have a national template, but it is our own template.
It is our own template. Okay. The reason I asked that is because we've been having discussions about appraisals, I think, at the last committee meeting here and at other committees. And I think it's right and proper that the clerk does the appraisals for staff, and then myself as chair of finance and personnel does the appraisal for the town clerk. Where I've been a chair of governors and other committees that I've sat on, the chair has done the appraisal, but then it is noted by the committee. And I'm just wondering if we want to add some word into our terms of reference where it says that it's delegated to the chair of the committee, but in the role of the committee. So role of the committee in terms of personnel, I do think it's important that the committee as a whole at least has sight of that appraisal. Does that make sense? Muffled a bit. Chris?
That's why I would have been, it's nothing to do with the appraisal bit. The approval of the payments that we do. Does that sound like it's sick? How many of us are left to do this? Do as well, yeah?
It's above certain, yeah. It's true.
Just want to clarify that because I get the message as come.
Yeah. So you're not allowed to go on holiday?
On a boarding model.
Everyone, David?
While we're on the appraisal front, will the staff be having targets, every member of staff to have a target, whether when they are appraised, whether they are moving towards that target, achieving work, whatever? Will that be monitored in future? Because as far as we can see now,
I'm wondering if you've made reference to the staff handbook there. If it's not nationally set and it's more policy for us as a specific town council, I think maybe the first step would be for us to have sight of the staff handbook at a future meeting, because it's important we get that side of it, understanding of that side of it before we then go down the target route.
Thank you.
That'd be a good way forward.
We'll put that as an action. Can we distribute that to the committee before the next meeting?
Yeah, I think I'd like that. Yeah, thank you.
It's been years since I looked at Green Book and Handbook and stuff like that. So particularly for new councillors, it'd be good to know what policies are in there. Okay. Any other comments about terms of reference? None. We need a proposal and a second. Would somebody like to propose, please? Proposed by David, seconded by Chris. All in agreement? Thank you very much. In terms of the progress for terms of reference, we've got heritage and events this week.
You've got heritage and
Tomorrow.
venues and markets is the last.
So venues, so there's two more. That's pretty good going. So that's yeah. Good. And then we'll have a terms of reference. 379, approval of payments to receive and approve the listings of payments made since the last committee meeting. So they were circulated by email. Anything to add, Alan? Any payments of note or anything remotely exciting in there?
Just to thank Councillor Harvey for stepping in. So he's been signing authorised payments for the town clerk within her mandate to do so.
There was a reason you was on the finance committee, Chris. No, thank you very much. In all seriousness, we do appreciate that. Do we need a proposal and seconder for the
No,
payment?
it's a result. What is the result? Yes.
Yep. Are you all happy to approve the schedule of payments? Read. 380, financial report for the 6 months ended the 30th of September. So we are literally halfway through the financial year, which is slightly scary. Do you want to take us through that one, Alan?
This is the same time.
Yeah.
In terms of overall income and expenditure, our income hasn't grown as much as we thought it would, and I think it's just part of the economic recession. Our cemetery income is down, our venues and markets income is down, and I think that trend might continue. So that's a little bit concerning going forward. Our property rental income is up, and I think we're going to find that from our amenities perspective, our rural payments agency money, we finally got confirmation about that, and that's about half of what we predicted. So our income is going to be a little bit tight going forward. Hopefully, it's going to remain. We've got a little bit of grant money still to come in, but hopefully that will help offset part of the reduction. From an expenditure perspective, we're actually significantly lower than budget. Finance and personnel are the big contributors to that. And in the narration that I circulated with the papers, I've explained salary costs are the biggest one. We've got a salary increase that we've set aside some money for. Hopefully that will be sufficient. And then there's unfilled posts that have given rise to that. Amenities is higher, and that part of that is our play park expenditure and our open space management. We're cutting grass and we're doing things. We've had ragwort disposal, which we didn't budget for, and that's had an impact on that. But otherwise, the cemetery, even though income is way down, expenditure is lower than budgeted, and the same thing with allotments. It's not very big money, but it is still lower. And over the years, those function areas have tended to be under budget quite significantly.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? One of the biggest variances, Alan, is obviously play parks, and that's a mixture of vandalism. It's about £5,000, £6,000, £7,000 on its own, which is frustrating. But some of it is frankly just wear and tear, because we inherited the play parks quite a while ago now. It must be at least 10 years ago. So they are getting in need of repair. The overspend that we've got there, the variance is 30,000. Is that it for this financial year, or are we likely to see even more repairs being done until the end of March?
We've got one last one, which we discussed with you when we had our pre-meeting. There's about £5,000, £4,000 or £5,000 on the surfacing at Fairfields. We're crossing fingers. Every year we have our ROSPA inspections. So those are statutory inspections that we have to have done by skilled or people that are more skilled than our staff that do that. Those reports should be coming in hopefully before the next amenities meeting, and that will give us an indication. We are hoping the amount of money that we have spent this year, that report will reflect that, and we won't have very many actions to do. But I think what we're going to have to do, because we're spending so much money on play parks, is we're going to have to go out every year and tender for maintenance. So even though we don't know what the maintenance will be, we need to keep, tendering, because the amounts that we get charged are mouthwatering. You get an invoice just to do a simple replace of seesaws, £4,000 or £5,000, and it is a significant amount of money. So we just need to make sure that we have that we get value for money, and that people and companies, sharpen their pencils to the extent that they can.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. The play areas are well used in Thetford. I mean, we all see it. Certainly, the one on Pine Close I drive past probably the most, and there's always children on it. So they are going to get wear and tear, and we have to bear that in mind, don't we? So, Chris?
A couple for me.
Yeah.
There used to be a line on here called General Reserve, but I don't know. I haven't seen that for a while.
There's a separate reserve tab of all of the reserves, which is separate to this report.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on a slightly more personal thing, the mayoral thingy is underspent. Is that going to carry forward? It's a mayoral event.
We have a policy of no carry forwards.
What happens is that 25% of the underspend goes to the mayoral fund, 75% goes back to the council. So if there is an underspend, the mayor will get 25% of that underspend added to his fund that he can use for his objectives. That's the current civic policy.
Isn't it? Okay.
How many play parks have we got?
11, yeah.
11?
Yeah.
Wow.
Castle Park, which is the big one.
Yeah, that's the only one I really see. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So there's not, the amount of expenditure isn't that big then?
No, not really. When you look at it like that.
For that?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were all handed over to the town council from Breckland about 10 years ago, along with the toilets. Wastage costs. We've had lots of conversations here about waste contracts, and we had chats at venues and communications. Has there been any progress about tying those costs down under a contract?
I have received quotes from Breckland. They are significantly lower than our current costs, and I have put a notice to terminate the contract of our existing supplier.
Brilliant.
So hopefully within a month's time, 2 months' time, we should see lower costs. We've also made the decision of going out and looking at skips on an individual basis, because previously we were giving our existing supplier, every time we needed a skip, we would actually go to them. We've now got 3 or 4 suppliers that we will use, and every time there's a skip needed, we'll go to them and ensure that we're getting, value for money.
Great, that's really good news, because it's quite a significant cost on waste. Good that that's being addressed. You mentioned on income that income is up, which is slightly up. Is any of that related to the shambles? Because I know there's been conversations about potential tenants moving in. So
the only income that we book. So even though our property rental income is £9,400 positively, that is for existing tenants.
Okay.
So if we got 2 more tenants before the end of the year, that would push our income up, because we'd only recognise the income when we've actually received it.
Yep.
Not when the potential income is could be realised.
So it's extra good news, but potentially that's sort of imminent with those additional tenants. Great.
And the other thing is that I have discovered, as you know, cemetery income has been a little bit of a bugbear for me. We are behind in our billing, so there should be a little bit more money coming in cemeteries. The number of burials is down, but the income recognition, we just need to, again, just make sure that we're dating things in the right month. And, if a burial took place in September, the income needs to be recognised in September. And we're recognising it a month late. So we'll reform that in the next few months, and that will also boost that.
Great. David?
On the play park, comment on now the costs they need unbundling with excessive vandalism and whatever. Is that something that will happen?
Sorry, I did it. This report, we did it for the amenities.
Oh, okay.
Amenities committee. If you have a look at the amenities committee report, I'm sorry that I'm referring you to something else. We've actually done that unbundling. I hadn't brought it to here.
I think that'd be wonderful in like, about Thetford or something. If it could be, you know, the play park vandalism cost us 20,000 quid. People probably don't realise the cost.
It actually is an action plan in the amenities minutes.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
And it's not just play parks, the street furniture, in litter bins, benches, the cost of repainting benches or, you know, when there's a fire to each litter bin's about £400 or £500. You know, each one's vandalised. So the yearly cost of vandalism is actually quite significant.
Yeah, it'd be nice to highlight that somehow.
Yeah. Here's what you could have had if we didn't have all the vandalism.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see any further comments. So our task with the 6-month report is to note the report. Is the committee happy to note it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all for your work and I'm going to be your finance assistant's name. So I'm sure she's been improving the data there. So
She was a B, but that's it.
okay, brilliant. So that leads us in nicely to the very first draft of the budget for next year. For those of you that have been here before, we ordinarily as a council set the budget around November. Well, historically it used to always be in November. And then the government kept pushing back when they tell Breckland certain information, which has a knock-on effect to us. So we've set budgets before in December. I can't remember when we set last year's budget. I think it was January, wasn't it?
We had a meeting in November.
Yeah.
It didn't carry. And we had a special meeting in January.
Yeah. And legally, we don't have to agree the budget until the end of January.
If we don't send our information to Breckland by the 31st of January, that instruction to raise precept for us, so if they decide to whether keep it at last year's levels or whatever they do.
So the plan at the moment is to have a special council meeting in January to give us a bit more flexibility in terms of discussions around the budget and to give Alan and team sufficient time to do the necessary. So this is the very first opportunity to look at it and to take comments from people to help inform where we go. You can see Alan's already done quite a lot of work on this, which is great, and I'm really pleased with it. Do you want to sort of talk us through the key assumptions,
Sure.
Alan? I think that'd be a good starting point.
In fairness, I asked the chairman for some guidance and in terms of some of the assumptions. He's provided that to me, and that's been very, very, very useful. It's the first time I've ever done a budget process where I've actually had some guidance and parameters to work in. The key assumption that we've made is the precept not to exceed 10%. I'm not saying that it has to be 10%, but I've just worked that as the worst case scenario. The property value indicator is very fundamental to us because basically what we do is we take how much income we need from our precept divided by the property valuator, and that tells you what the precept will be for a band D property, which is the average that we actually use. So that's 100% of the precept, and then you know, if it's a C or D, they take 60 or 80% of it, and if it's more than a D, an E and F, they take 120% of that figure, for example. And that's very difficult because last year we got our notification very, very late because they were trying to finalise that. So I've just worked on an increase of 2.5%. Last year it increased by a little bit more. So I'm hoping that, you know, I took a drive around King Street. I had some visitors and took them around just to show them there seems to be a lot more development there this year than there was last year. So I'm hoping that will have a bigger increase. What I've also done is I've just assumed that salary increases will remain at 7.5% for 2023-24 and for 24-25, because that creates so much uncertainty. Because of the increase in the property value or indicator, I'm assuming that our precept income, if we set the limits at 10%, will actually increase by 12.2%, because obviously the more value, higher value properties, the more precept income you get. At the moment, and this is a very first draft, we show a deficit of 42,827. And I have to say, when I first saw what I had to accommodate in the budget, I thought it was going to be hundreds of thousands, not 42,000. And what I've done is I've just put on the sheet here major changes. Our headcount does increase from last year to this year. It's quite a significant increase. I've done a calculation which shows that the average income or earnings per staff member would decline, and you'd expect that because we're not employing people at a higher level. We're actually employing people, if I call it, at the coalface level. So that should, that should help. I also spent a little time on the weekend scratching my head because I've been at the council since 2019, and we've always grossly underspent our salary budget. And I've been thinking about why has it happened? And I had a little bit of a brain thing on Sunday evening. I thought, okay, I think I've come across it. So I'm going to rework it. I was hoping to be able to do that for this meeting, but I just ran out of time today. But I think there is a possibility to identify why we're over budgeting for the last few years and actually address that, because it's pointless going to people and saying, well, we want to put up to precept, and then we've got all this money unspent in the salaries budget, which remains there until the end of the year. I've assumed that the toilet contract will not be renewed for next year, so that should save us 27,792. The ID Verde contract costs, they're into their last year next year. And if you remember, at the beginning of this financial year, we had an agreement with them. They came with an offer. They put up their prices to 47,000 and then asked if they could increase it to 52,000. So I budgeted for that. The spread of that goes to floral displays, it goes to open space management, and it goes to cemetery grass cutting. I've put some adjustments in on the business rates, and that will be the restructuring of the Guildhall and the Carnegie. That will take place later on in the next financial year. It won't be at the beginning, so I've done that. The council will vacate from King's House on the 1st of April. I know the council haven't made a decision, but I've made that as an assumption in this, in my working share. One of the tasks that I have, and I haven't had a chance to do it in this particular committee, is to look at the rates charged for this house. We assume it actually does relate to this building. It's the 12,194. I'm going to try to see if I can meet with Anglia Revenue Partnership next month and actually get an idea of what all the rates that we pay, what are the specific premises that they relate to, and then we can do something about that. I've increased, spelling mistake, increased pay park maintenance by £15,000. I've created an environmental expenditure account to deal with the environmental challenges that we face of 10,000 and parish partnerships expenditure of 25,000. And then I've also included an expenditure of 30,000 to support the Citizens Advice Bureau with a sport worker to be based in Thetford. And I put those in the other section so that they're easily identifiable because they will be a more council-wide initiatives rather than committee-driven initiatives. So we have to go through and start really looking at our costs again. What can we save on, or what other income we can have a look at. So this really is a first draft. I've got two key steps to do. I'm obviously going to do a second draft, which I'll take at the November meeting of this particular committee. But we also need to do a functional analysis so we can start seeing what some of the functions, the cost of that is. That takes quite a task because we have to go through salaries and some of the other fixed costs and allocate them out. But we'll also present that because I think it will help in terms of the decision making on the budget rather than just seeing the gross numbers. You'll actually see where those numbers are incurred and why they're incurred.
Brilliant. Straight out of the trap. Terry.
2 points, I think. And I'm not going to suggest any changes. First one is thank you, Alan, for all the hard work that you put into this. It's massively appreciated. And I love the idea that you're sitting about on a Sunday night thinking of ways to improve the budget. It is hugely appreciated. Second thing to say is I think this is the proof in the pudding of the changes that have been made with regard to the manifesto we brought forward prior to the elections. And this is our work coming to fruition, I think, in that sense. So I'm very, in that regard, I'm very proud of what we're doing. I think this is an enormous step for Thetford Town Council.
Thank you. Noted. Any other comments, David?
Yeah, the CEB post based in Thetford, could that be reworded eventually so that is they only work in Thetford and they are there at the same time as a Charles Borough shop's open, probably also working when they do not every single free food evening on the Thursday, but whatever, or Tuesday, but to coincide where there's a lot of people, but in Thetford, not doing supervision work in Dis or whatever else. They're there to support welfare rights and debt issues predominantly and housing.
Yep.
To be fair, David, the shop is open at the same time as the free dinners are about.
Yeah, but
So the two things sort of merge.
yeah, but the shop's open more than once a week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if the shop's open, when there's, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
I think it'd be useful if we just tidied up the wording and didn't specifically refer to CAB, but called it a support worker role. Because just so we don't put the cart before the horse, because obviously there's discussions to be had with CAB, probably some sort of service level agreement that ties them to certain commitments. You know, we're agreeing to the principle of the role, not necessarily whether it's delivered with CAB, even though the manifesto specifically refers to CAB. It was a bright idea at the time, but just to, you know, not put all our eggs in the same basket.
Yeah,
I think
that's fine.
Anything else, David?
No,
No.
that's fine for now.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Sorry, going back to the manifesto, are we really tying the budget into the manifesto? So everything that's in the manifesto, we are starting to really move towards.
And that's a big question.
I think we're trying to do that because one of the things that we haven't done since COVID 2019 is do a longer term budget, and our financial regulations actually require us to do that. But the problem was we were in such uncertainty, we didn't know what was happening with our income. We are fortunate, but also unfortunate that a lot of our income, you know, some of the other bit larger town councils, most of their income is precept, which is constant. We're actually not. So I think what we need to do is we need to do a medium-term expenditure framework. And it would be nice not to take this year and add 5% for the after 2 years. It would be nice to be able to actually show what we are going to do. So I think that would be one of the outputs before, you know, the third draft budget. We would actually start extending that out so that we could actually see what the implications are. Because there is affordability, you know, constraints, and there might be income constraints. We might not be able to find the 42, or, you know, but we need to have some plan. We might have to defer some of the stuff. And at the moment, we've just put it in, so at least we understand what the challenge is.
There's a medium-term plan, 2 years.
3 years. It'll be next year plus 2 outer years.
Okay.
I do recall your comments at the kind of 5-year, 10-year plan, but we'll get there.
Okay.
It's all relative. Having any plan is progress. Any other comments? Got a couple of observations from me. In your version 2, Alan, can we set the contribution to the properties reserve? Can we increase that by 4.5? The reason I'm suggesting that is because I want the total contribution to the reserve for next year's budget to be the same as this year's budget. I don't want to be accused of not topping up our reserves. So if it's the same as previous years, nobody can argue with that, surely. I noticed in their pension strain costs have gone up quite significantly. Is that just because our...
No, I think there must be a mistake there, because pension strain costs are actually zero. In the earlier years, we used to get... We got charged £3,000 to the personnel one, but in the latter years we haven't, because what they've done is they've just increased our contribution.
Oh no, it's mine. It's me.
Okay, sure.
That's me. Not having my glasses on. No, I'll let you off. I thought it'd gone up to 4.5, but that's training budget.
Yeah, it's. So we shouldn't get that cost because they've actually got surplus in the pension fund at the moment.
Brilliant.
So they're reducing the employer contribution from last year to 24, this year's 23.5, and next year they've asked us to reduce it down to 23%.
Good. Agents fees, that is 5156. That's increasing from £3,000 this year to just short of £5,000. Is that because the value of the rents has gone up and we're anticipating a greater share of 10%? Have we taken out from that the outside space?
I have. I've done a working schedule, put all the renters in, and then worked out which one's the commission and which one's that.
Okay, good. Equipment support and maintenance budget increasing. Have we included the fact that we've forward paid for the licenses?
I just need to do a little bit more work on that, because I think also we have to look at our technology the whole time. You know, we've got decisions. We just need to unpack that. And what I'd like to do is actually I'll put a detailed analysis to this, so that when the next budget comes, we can actually see what we're looking to spend, because I think that's only fair.
Yep.
And it helps the decision making.
That's fine, because I assume equipment support includes the company that looks after all of our IT and that's it.
So it includes some basic licenses. You know, we use Sage, we've got licenses for our software and things like that. So it's also included in there.
Under venues and markets for bar takings, we're proposing a budget of 31k, but in 2022-23 we achieved 52k, and the budget for this year is 36. Is there a reason we're anticipating less bar takings next year than this year?
Our bar takings recently have fallen quite significantly. So our hall hire charges have remained. Have a look at the trend there. You know, they're pretty high.
Yeah.
But what's not happening is that the functions that they're happening, the bar takings are a lot lower. We had the example on this past weekend. We had 3 events. We were projecting a £1,500 bar. I think it was less than £900. So that gives you the extent to which revenue is falling off. So we're finding that the bar income is going down while the other income is remaining constant. So that's just to reflect that.
Okay.
You know, maybe in January.
And bar purchases have gone down, and
it's a relative. It's
yeah.
our GP percent.
Okay. Bizarre. We want people to drink more.
I'm not officially, but
To help our budget, come and have a drink. There was a new line around civic income and mayor's civic lunch. Is that just £2,000 in and £2,000 out for the Christmas dinner type
it is,
arrangement?
yeah.
And is the feeling that the £2,000 coming in will be sort of sponsorship or donations to cover the cost?
Find it. This
4,310 is the income, and
it was matched that way. Sorry, there's the 2,000, and there's the 2,000. Yes.
yeah,
There'll be some form of sponsorships.
yeah. And I assume, Chris, it'll be your intention to do the Christmas lunch.
Definitely.
Okay.
Not so sure of that, some stuff, but yeah, that would be a go.
I mean, it was a
Yorkshire. I'm basically from Aldi.
it's a relatively new thing in the civic diary, isn't it? We didn't used to do a Christmas dinner, but it seems to be quite. I haven't been, but I've seen it's been quite popular. So we're essentially saying it's here to stay. So yeah.
Why did it cost £1,000 for the mayor making?
That's just the food and drink afterwards. And the photography.
Sorry?
And the photography. It's okay, come up there.
Okay, this, regarding you've got the operational budget, I've been informed that next year it's the 80th anniversary of D-Day. So there's an awful lot of events going on that we don't appear to have low.
I did see a line for national events.
So what we do on the 53, if you look at the screen now, the 5320, you'll see national events.
Is that what that is?
And that's what that is. So in case there's something that comes.
Okay,
We're just hoping for no more coronations. They're expensive. I did actually put on my notes, and this is probably for Mike in your committee, the heritage and events budget, I think the proposal is to keep that at 12, which is what it currently is. Does that sort of tie with what the committee wants to do in terms of the number of events that you want to put on? That was my only query about that.
I think we're slightly caught tonight with the issue of the way in which we allocate funding. So the main expenditure is likely to be staffing time, I would have thought. And I think there's been some recent discussion, and I think it's very positive discussion, that we make sure that in future our budgeting allocates staff a time to various committees so that, you know, if you have a staff intensive committee, it will be relatively more expensive than actually, which sometimes in the past have shown. So hopefully that will make it clearer. There aren't huge expenses apart from staffing in that committee.
Okay, good. Well, this is a first draft, so after tomorrow, you know, if the committee want to do something different.
The committee's meeting tomorrow, as you earlier said, and so we'll have a clearer view then of whether people agree with what's proposed.
Good.
£5,500 spent on civic regalia.
Yep.
Is that repairs to regalia? What is it? That's 5325.
We've only got 1,200.
You really?
Are you looking at the financial report or the budget? I think you're looking at
Our report,
you're looking at the
the
financial
actual
report.
report, yeah.
That was,
Our robes.
How long have we robes?
yeah.
It says minus spending.
Okay. Sorry, this was the.
565.
We're only budgeting 1,200 next year for regalia.
I may not have had a chance to scrutiny.
Okay.
I do apologise. I'll have a look at that and report back. We'll see it in the next
That's
report.
fine, yeah.
Okay. And last one for me, one of our biggest costs is insurance. And again, we don't split out on the budget line the different aspects of the insurance, but it covers obviously everything, all of our buildings. When are we next due the review of all of our insurance? Because obviously that could find the insurance line.
We were given, during COVID, we were given an offer of not increasing our insurance for 2 years. So we've just entered the first year of that, and we've got another year to go, and then we'll have to go out a tender again.
Okay. I'm sure.
How much is the insurance on St. Peter's Church?
The insurance document is about that thick.
Right.
I can provide you that information.
Because, yeah, we were given that, like, for nothing, and it's significant costs associated.
I just found the budget line. So the total insurances bill for the whole council is 11,500.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and that includes motor vehicles.
Does that include our terrorism insurance?
Probably does.
Just making sure.
I only heard about that quite recently.
Yeah, I remember the insurance bill being significantly more than that. It was in, about 28,000. It must be less risky these days. Take a pair of hands. Okay, that's good. So that's not going to change within the next year. That's kind of the point I was getting at. Okay, I'll shut up now. Anybody else want to comment and make any changes to the first draft of the budget? Nope. So this will be discussed tomorrow. It will be discussed at amenities early November. And what's next? Venues and markets in November. It will be back here as a second draft for finance personnel in November. And then as we move into December, it will be more accurate and watertight. So if you've got any questions or any of your committees that you're on, please do ask. Please do make suggestions and changes. And, if there's anything you're not sure about, then check. But as a first draft goes, I think it's not too bad. I'm quite pleased. Well, very pleased. Right. Identify and approve any changes. So we've done that. Thank you very much. Move on to the 382 personnel report. The report has been circulated. Anything you wanted to add, Alan, to the report?
Unfortunately, I don't get involved in organizing and training or access to the database. I know that there is one action where I think there was some in-person planning training requested for last meeting. Fortunately, I have no contact, so that will have to carry forward till the next month.
Any questions from anybody on the personnel report? Thank you. Christmas closure. That time of year again.
After distributing the documents yesterday and getting all this together, I was told that there is an error in it. The first 2023, Thursday, the 21st of December is the mayor's Christmas lunch, not Friday, the 22nd. So I do apologise for that.
That's fine.
So the intention is to close the office on 22nd of Friday the 22nd at normal closing time and reopen it on the 2nd of January at normal time. And in order to encourage the staff, because it's quite easy if we don't have to have anyone sitting in the office and close down the office, we just asked as a kind of incentive to the staff to give a privilege day, which we've identified at Wednesday the 27th of December. And it's really up to every year that we've come to the council and asked them to either approve that or to ask the staff to take it as annual leave.
Do we need a proposal and seconder for that?
I think so.
Yeah, and we'll
How
resolve it
long has it been going on for, this
as long as I've been here.
As long as I've been all right.
practice? Why don't we just write it in there and leave it at that?
Or privilege then, it's a right.
I don't,
Yeah. I've never known the council to say no. You'd have to rewrite everybody's contracts.
why don't we just write it in there then? If the council agrees,
Would that create work in terms of people's contracts?
would it?
Or we'd have to go and get the handbook changed.
So if you make that point next month, when we look at the staff handbook,
Right,
and then next year it might be a given or it might be a privilege day again. But
okay.
we'll pick
Does
that up.
anyone have a problem with that?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Instead of having a privilege day and it's been going on for as long as they're involved, why don't we just write it into their contract and just leave it at that? Because they work,
Seems reasonable.
they work hard enough, don't they?
Yeah.
Any problems with that?
I suppose the only difficulty is the number of days that we're talking about varies given when Christmas falls, perhaps. That might be an issue. I have known it to be a greater number of privileged days rather than
Fair enough.
depending when Christmas falls. That might be something to consider. Don't know, but worth looking at.
Mm.
So can I have a proposer and seconder to adopt the report and the recommendation for this year, and then we'll take it forward for future. Yeah. Yeah, Ron proposing and Chris seconding, all agreed? Thank you. Tell the staff they can book their holidays and whatever else they got. Christmas dinner. Moving on to 384. You would have seen, hopefully, the report circulated in relation to Wetherspoons. There's been ongoing discussions with Wetherspoons since June, I think it was, when full council made the decision regarding the rent, and there's a counter proposal now back from Wetherspoons there. Any questions or comments about the proposal as written?
I would like it to be clear on that it's fixed 5-yearly and it's 7.5%. Just sort that wording out. Other than that, I'm fine.
So reading the recommendation where it says the fixed 5-yearly increases, is it an increase each year for 5 years, or is it one increase every 5 years? In terms of bullet point 3, fixed 5-yearly increases. It's a bit like lawyer's paradise. I just think we need to maybe look at the wording of that, because I think they mean every 5 years. Or do we want to go with the 10% option? Because they've given us a choice, haven't they?
Comfortable, just want it clarified. I think that the rent goes up, the yearly rent goes up by a couple of thousand at a time.
So we are
money into the building themselves. They're not going to be leaving there. They spend a few $100,000 on it.
So we are content with a 7.5% increase every 5 years. Is what we're saying, yeah. So we need to make sure that that's worded in a way that is legally sufficient. In the current agreement, where does it stand in relation to Tuesdays? Because I notice in their proposal it says continue not to use the space on a Saturday to accommodate market traders. Is that Do we stipulate that they can't use it on a certain time on a Tuesday as well?
No,
Okay,
it's open on a Tuesday.
and that's at Wetherspoon's goodwill? Or do the
It's our goodwill.
market traders work around Wetherspoons?
Yes, yes.
Would that be a problem continuing, or do we want to say we want access? Yeah, effectively make them take the tables and chairs away.
It's been very gratifying how the market has grown on Saturdays. It has also grown on Tuesdays, but I don't think, to the best one in the world, we're at a place at the moment where that impinges on the market.
So bearing in mind, this new agreement is for a longer period of time, not a yearly licence. Do we want to build in the power to?
I wonder if we should leave that open to review. I'm hoping we'll have 37 stalls on there every Tuesday. That may not happen. But if it does, it would be a bit of a choker if we couldn't put them where the tables are now.
So maybe we should word it in a way, Tuesdays if
retain the right to renegotiate that.
Tuesdays if required.
Yeah.
Comment on that, David?
Yeah, not renegotiate, because if it's getting to negotiations, it should be if you need it on a Tuesday because you've increased the number of stalls.
You're right.
You don't want to be, we'll negotiate with you. It's
because they're going to hammer us again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
Could we change? Is that okay?
Yeah. I think if we add in the wording if required, we don't know if we'll ever need the additional space on a Tuesday.
I'm hoping we do.
Yeah,
Of course we do.
But
you've put this thing in to encourage people to come in at no cost for so long.
Yeah.
Well, let's see how it takes off. And if you're not going to do anything for 5 years, in 2-3 years, it might be significantly better.
When we were elected, there were regularly 2 stalls on a Tuesday. Today there were, let me think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
yeah.
I'm not saying we're going to increase
we're
that
employing
much.
a market person as well.
Yeah.
So theoretically, yes, if that could be looked at, please.
Yep. Alan made a note. I think that's
Thank you.
perfectly sensible. In terms of process, Alan, we make this decision tonight and recommend to full council to accept the new terms.
Correct. So you would want to propose it here?
Yeah. In the meantime, we have a town council solicitor, don't we? That we regularly use for this sort of thing.
We do. We have 2 that we've been using. So
Okay. I just think it'd be helpful if these are essentially heads of terms, if we run these past them before we get to full council so that we can, get their opinion on it before we sign up to something for a long period of time. Yep. Okay. Can I have a proposer to accept the recommendation subject to the changes that we've agreed? David proposing? Yeah. Seconder? Say Ron for variety.
Yeah.
You're turning into the new Colin, Chris. You're turning into the new Colin.
Oh dear.
That all makes sense. I suppose you're happy with all that? It's 3H5 correspondence. To note and consider any other correspondence. None. 386 committee officers update. To update any information since the agenda was released. None.
but if I could just ask for the controlling person information forms, they have been given today. It's just if we could actually have those.
This is for the Barrett and Cook doodah. So if you are a member of the Finance Committee, you need to supply those forms. Thank you to those that have. So you're bringing yours in? Thank you.
Yeah, me and Andy.
Brilliant, thank you. Anyone that hasn't, make sure you do. Action points. find them. Hold on. Here we go. Thetford Town Council website is still being developed and policies are to be added onto the website once this has been completed. Anything you want to add, Terry? I know you guys have been working on the website.
I haven't heard anything about that. So I think it's something we need to, I've been waiting for updates. I think it's something I'm going to have to.
I think I'm up at S&T level about website.
No.
Okay. When's the, I can't remember if it's the external or internal audit that always pauses up on the website, but when are they next due to come?
I think next year they hoping to come in person, so they normally come April, May.
Okay.
Is it easy just to change that photograph?
Well, it's the whole design of the website is changing.
Look, is it possible just to change the photograph when you open it up and it's the previous council on there?
Oh, okay.
Stuck.
Okay, so this is tricky because we made a decision not to continue updating the present website because we were hoping to get the next one up and running quickly. That hasn't proved to be the case. I'm going to have to, I've been waiting for updates on that. I have received none. So I think I'm going to have to push on that and see where we are and hopefully move the new website forward. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be all but ready to roll now, to be honest.
So you've got your committee next meets in November.
Yeah.
It's Heritage this month. Would it be realistic to have a presentation of the first draft of the website at the November meeting?
I don't know. I would love to say yes.
What's holding it back?
I don't know.
I've got outside agencies involved.
No.
Okay.
So at the moment, the issue with the website is about populating it and putting into practice the stuff that I asked for.
Who's doing
So,
it?
Okay. We'll leave.
I'll
so,
leave it with you.
yeah.
Right.
Leave it on there, but November, hopefully we'll see it take a step forward.
I think
There's
there's a
competency
number of
in this.
conversations we need to have around that.
There is a competency in the staff, is there, to do this?
We are paying an outside agency to do the bones of it. I think the issue is the uploading of the,
So the issue is the population of it. I asked for changes. I mean, I don't know what to say here. I used to work on a huge website. It shouldn't take long.
So it's, yeah.
work in progress.
Yeah.
Risk management. Do we need to say anything more on that? Yeah, that's fine. An action plan for managing waste disposal from a cost and environment perspective to be prepared urgently. So we know the prices, but we haven't signed the contract yet, but you've given notice.
Given notice, and I'm just waiting for recognition of that notice. And to confirm the date.
Yep.
And then the Brexit are aware that we've given notice. They've sent through their terms and conditions. And as soon as we have a start date, they will send us the contract.
Okay. That's fine. So we'll leave that on there now, but by a November meeting, we can probably take that off because there'll be a new contract.
We'll sort of if it's not.
The finance officer to investigate the rates for council chambers, these seem high. So again, we'll leave that one on there, but by November, it could well be somebody else's problem, namely Sanipol's. Local procurement policy in the autumn, that's still to happen. The roles and responsibilities document to be updated in a future meeting. Haven't done that. No worries. And then we've got meter readings to be obtained at the end of the financial year. We'll leave that one there. That's still to do. Town clerk to meet with the property manager. Do we know if that was done before Tina went off?
No, I actually.
Oh, you met. Okay, brilliant.
We had a very constructive meeting. We've really sorted out roles and responsibilities. I got a report back to say it was very useful. They found it very useful. And I've just got to kind of put it into a bit of a memorandum of understanding, but we will both make notes And I think going forward, we'll get a better service because they have a better understanding of what our expectations are. We are going to ask for things like property inspections on a 6-monthly basis. We're doing a lot of things that they assumed that we weren't interested in doing. So that's very pleased with progress made there.
Given we've got hopefully imminent new tenants at the Shambles in both units, could we have a bit of a, don't want to put too much work on you, but could we have a bit of a property report at the November meeting where we get, confirmation of who the new tenants are, and a sort of, formal progress update for the agents? I think that'd be really useful. Turn the page. I think that was the last one. Yep.
The request for the bank charges and analysis of that at the last meeting. I left it blank here because I was happy to have it done before today, but that didn't happen. There was a request for an exit interview for.
You done that?
But she didn't want to.
She didn't want to.
Oh, okay.
She's actually been sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, she went off.
She only comes back tomorrow.
Okay.
Just to do an afternoon tea, I think it is.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, the offer was there, so we can take that one off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll come off.
Sort of progressed.
And then the request for the terms of reference that came out of the last meeting, that's now gone into every single committee, and that's been done. And the proposed training for in-person training, that I've really indicated I can't do that. They'll have to stay until the platform comes back.
Yeah.
I've got some planning training booked in. It's a Zoom call, 7 o'clock on Wednesday, 25th of October. Bearing in mind, it doesn't start till 7 o'clock. I would suggest that's going to be a maximum of 2 hours. I'm not sure that feels like it's going to be the quality or quantity of training that I feel I require.
Is that something town council's arranged, or Brecton, or you independent?
Town council.
Town council, because this is actually from a month ago, because I asked the town clerk the day before the meeting, when the meeting, what was happening. She asked me to chase them up on Thursday, 2 days after it was actually due to occur.
Yeah.
So,
do you know if that's something we're paying for, or is that something that's free?
I have not a clue. As I say, it doesn't feel, it might be brilliant, but it doesn't feel like it's going to produce much.
Yeah.
Provide.
I think my view would be, if it's free, might as well do it.
Absolutely.
Because it's an
I'm not going to not do it.
Yeah. But that doesn't, if we haven't paid for it and we're looking to organise something more substantial, you might as well wait to the more substantial one. But if we are, it's an introduction to planning, so do it, and hopefully that's a good foundation.
I've already done an introduction to planning at Breckland,
Yeah.
which was good, but it wasn't.
Town.
I learned nothing about the legal aspects of planning.
Okay.
So I learned only about probity. I didn't learn about the mechanics of how you object or otherwise to plan.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the last action point was for November's meeting. It's that review of the committee structures and the membership that it's in the terms of reference of the personnel committee to do every November. So that will be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah. Thank you. Any questions, comments about action points from anyone? Okay, happy. Community engagement to discuss and agree on consultation or media release.
In terms of media releases, I think somewhere along the line there's a blockage in the process that leads to press releases actually going out. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure either. It's my job to particularly find out, but we're asking for press releases and they're just not going out, and they're not going out to the people they should be going out to. I've said it before and I'll say it again, any help that is required, I'll be very pleased to provide, but I haven't had any requests for help. So I'm a little puzzled at what's going on, frankly.
Okay. I think what would be useful is if you and I have a chat and then we'll pick that up with Alan and David. Definitely be good.
Brilliant.
Excuse me, Terry, that's a very valid point. I've put in pictures to Kerry of things we've done and they're out the same day regarding the mayor's
Press
pay.
releases?
Well, no, it's sort of if you had the press release, I'm just saying.
Oh, this is part of the
Yeah, but
confusion.
is there much of a correlation between what the mayor and the press release? It could be the same, couldn't it? Could be the same pictures, the same details, the same thing, so.
The issue is with press releases.
Well, I understand that. I'm trying to work out what the difference is between what the civic office puts out and what the press releases do. What would be, because they're using the same stuff. They're trying to use the same photos.
Okay. Well,
Pretty clear.
we've adopted the media policy. Now we've got to work out how we implement it. I think is the challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, that came out of community engagement. So we have one item below the line, which is to do with personnel. So I'll read the exclusion of press and public. To consider resolving that pursuant to the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, the press and public be excluded for any remaining items of business on the grounds that publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be discussed. Is the committee content that we exclude press and public and go below the line? Agreed. Thank you very much.